Thanks for being here, guys. Questions for Coach? We'll start with Justin.
You added a handful of guys out of the transfer portal. When you were examining those guys, what about those guys stood out to you, and how are they settling in?
Yeah, well, like you alluded to, we added 3 in the portal, and that process was quite tiresome. And obviously, we're playing in the Holiday Bowl at that time, and we played that game, and then that day it opens up, right? And so I remember Cole calling me this morning, or that morning after the game, that Saturday, and played that game that night. We got back into Tucson at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I was picking them up at the airport 10:30 that night. And so, it's rapid fire speed dating, as everybody alluded to. Within that process, I think that the organization, and specifically the recruiting department, did a great job of the evaluation of guys. And I think through that process, you got to be really honest with yourself of what you can budget and what's realistically in your ballpark. You got to evaluate all guys, right? So during the bowl site, it wasn't uncommon for me to do all my football responsibilities until 10 p.m. And then I would watch transfer film up until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. at night. So I felt like I've been able to view the whole board so I could adequately critique everybody. And within that within that process, the 3 guys that we took, one, we play in the Big 12, and we need to get longer. Collectively as a room, we weren't as long as I felt like we needed. The depth from the athleticism point wasn't there holistically from the room either. And so I feel like Cole, Shane, Art exemplify all that. All of them are 6'4 plus. Shane and Arthur have done a great job within their development of adding 10 to 15 pounds plus. Shane's up to 240, Art's up to 245, and so with both of those guys, there's a little bit of adjustment period of understanding how they're moving and the dynamic ability of how much more I have to drop my hips to have a base on contact with all the other weight. But the best thing that they did is they got it on now. And so now they have all the time from January till September 1st to either change the weight in a little bit more healthy manner, from a cleanliness standpoint with their diet, and then it gives them their body time to adjust. And so length and size, athleticism was the big thing. And then what I've been really surprised with, and you don't see it as much in Cole's film as maybe the other 2, and obviously Shane's the baby of the bunch, but with that athleticism, although Illinois didn't ask Cole to do some of the things that we've asked him to do, he showed me the ability that he can run counter, he can use divide zone, he's able to drop his hips to roll it through. And so that's why I always err on the side of athleticism, because if you do some of those certain functional movement things, you have the ability to do other things specifically in the run game, even though he may not have been asked to.
Cole specifically, why was he maybe a priority, considering you guys were picking him up at the airport as soon as you guys got back?
Yeah, I think he was a priority, one, because he showed that he had the athletic ability to do what we wanted in the throw game. And with that, although, like I alluded to, he wasn't asked to do some of the things that we're asking him to do in the run game, I felt like he can do it. And then at the end of the day, relationships matter. And so with that, we were able to do a lot of due diligence on him to feel confident that he was worth our while and worth investing in. Really close friends with his agent. Luke Altmaier was with Daggy at Ole Miss. That had a great relationship with Luke. And so we were able to get some background information. And then once I kind of met Steve and Joan, his parents, the evaluation process for me is super important. Athletically, yes, but holistically, the families are as much important. It allows me to understand how they're raised, the makeup, and I felt super comfortable with how Cole was raised, because I know, how Steve and Joan raised him. And when Cole's up here, ask him about his dad's real job. Back in the day, he was an old MMA trainer, so that'll be a fun story for you. He's got a sweet video. But through that vetting process, he showed us the athletic ability that he can do it, and then we had enough background information to do it. And as you guys have kind of seen with the basketball portal, if you don't get your top guy in on that first visit, you got no shot. And he was the one that we ID'd through our thorough process and felt good about within that price range. And even within that price range, he had double the amount of offers And so it came down to he believed in our vision and our trust in him to develop him in his last year.
Michael and Brian.
You've mentioned things like agents and price ranges. Could you ever have imagined maybe 5 years ago when you were in this business that those things would become just kind of part of the regular conversation?
No, not at all. And, I was sharing this experience with my head coach that I played with, Coach Kevin Donnelly at St. Francis, and my mentor. He actually drove down from Fort Wayne for the Cincinnati game. And he was a little bit disappointed in me, told me I seemed a little calloused and wasn't as much in it from the player development. And I was like, well, Coach, that's not completely true. I hear what you're saying. But within the industry now and what it is, they truly are employees, and so it's changed a little bit of it. Now I think what Coach Brennan has done from an organizational standpoint is still put the belief in the development of the players, and obviously you guys see that with the high school classes that we put together and how many kids that we're taking. Our philosophy is we want to build it through high school, complement it within the portal because we still believe in that development. But no, when I got in it 13, 14 years ago, and even, back to 5 years ago, the timeline that you set, I can imagine it is what it is. And, you got to learn to adapt with it or else you'll be left behind. And I think we've done an exceptional job of adapting to college football and the landscape that it is while still keeping the main thing, which is the player development.
Brian and Justin.
I'm assuming that the plans at tight end had to change drastically when Tyler got hurt on that first play. What were you missing without having him there last year? And then how has his progress been as far as coming back?
Yeah, obviously, very unfortunate situation with TP. He's done a great job in his recovery. He's well on pace. He's doing a little bit of functional movement as you see out there on the field. He's not going to do any spring, but when we get back in May, he should be fully cleared and hit the floor running. Obviously, with TP, we lost the girth and size to really be, that butt kicker at the line of scrimmage that we were hoping that he would be. And then what he hasn't gotten a chance to showcase as much yet is that he's got some real vertical juice. And so we missed that a little bit. And what would have done, the gap between him being available would have bridged, to Cam's transition a little bit. And it would have allowed us a little bit more grace period. But I'm super grateful for Sam and Cam. Obviously, Cam grew into be a really special player for us, and he played those last 3 or 4 games on a broken foot, so we didn't get to showcase him as much as what we were hoping to. And so him to end his career the way that he played in that SMU game is really special. And then I'm forever indebted to Sam Olson, and he went through that coaching change when I was first hired, and that's the guy that's coached him his whole college career. And Sam's buy-in and his intentionality to the new fundamentals and principles that I was teaching set the standard for the room. And if he chose otherwise, he could have made it really difficult for me to get the other buy-in from the guys in the room, and he didn't. And I think he went out, as you guys saw, to play some of the best football within his skill set that he's played in his 4 or 5 year career.
Justin and Michael.
So Shane King was a guy that you coached prior to your time in Arizona, is that right?
I've actually never coached Shane. I recruited him to Marshall, and then obviously Coach Huff took a different job, brought me with him to Southern Miss, and he was able to get out of his national letter of intent to go to Southern Miss. I was there for a month, and then Coach B and Daggy called me before he actually got there to come to Arizona. So I've never coached Shane. I've known Shane for a long time, but I've never actually coached him.
But you recruited him, his skill set. Why was he the right fit in your opinion?
Yeah, he's the right fit for me because I know how he's made up and I know how he's wired. He's super competitive, and athletically he's different. The 2 babies in the room, if you would ask any of the old heads, once they figure it out, and to me it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, they're truly different. And he's the one that probably moves most similar to Cam and has the ability to really be that elusive receiver, and he's got naturally gifted hands. But the way he's able to stretch the field vertically while maintaining his speed, while changing directions is different. And with his process, it's been really good through these 10 practices or so to see how he's kind of progressed in the run game. His steps are starting to come down. His mentality's on point, so that's never been anything that I've had to question. And as he's getting closer through these, towards the end of these practices, you can really start to see the growth in the run game, which now for him was a weakness or his biggest question. And now he's giving himself an opportunity, as long as he knows what he's doing fundamentally and holistically, schematically, he gives himself the play and play a lot and in a big role.
Is Henry the other baby?
Henry is the other baby, yes, sir.
What's your sort of initial scouting report on him?
Yeah, so Henry is the most athletically gifted. I mean, he is different. He's going to hit high 20, low 21 on the catapult. He's a 10-foot broad jumper. He's got great bend. He's able to get in and out of breaks extremely efficient for a kid that's 6'6", 225 right now. Like, you don't move like he does. He was swimming early on in camp with obviously being in a wing tee offense, and some of the techniques and things, and, just playing a different style of foreign football was completely different. And now he's playing in a modern system, and some of the new moving parts and the teaching has been a lot for him to handle. But these last 2 to 3 practices specifically, you start to see the system settle down for him, and he's starting to understand what he's doing within this offense. And so now we're getting to lean into the details of the fundamentals, in which he's getting close in those. And he just needs to have a great offseason to continue to develop within that frame to add the mass needed to be successful. But once again, with that kid, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how soon it clicks for him.
We'll finish up with Justin.
So now with Seth being here for a year, how do you? I know you have a lot of new guys, but how do you think overall? How do you think the guys are settling into the scheme, the system, and all that?
Yeah, I think it's been great. We've obviously had some staff conversations about the transition of new guys, and I think, they're from year 1 to year 2 when Seth and I first got here. Obviously, we were portal heavy in experience, right? And so we brought in the guys of Wysong, K. Hutt, KD, Tristan, and Unk. And Unk is, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, left tackle. Help me out.
Oh,
Buchanan, Unk. I just always called him Unk. And so heavy in experience there. It's where this cycle we were able to retain a lot of the guys that have had played quality reps. We've leaned into the Geos, the Mizels, the Sticks, the Spivies of the world. Lotto started to play some reps. Rhino's played some reps. And so really it's been more of a maturation of the young guys to come around. And so, that's been a really neat process to get them to buy into Redline and seeing what that is and how to live it. But we're able to do more now on the front end with those guys, right? And so now you're able to build it for those guys that have experience. You're able to build it for Noah, right? So now you're able to dabble in new schemes or new techniques or try to, play around with new potential explosive plays to grow Noah, to grow the old guys. And then you can always dial it back with scripting for the 2s and 3s to get them caught up, right? But you're actually able to advance the offense a little bit more into what we want to do and see how we can complement their skill sets with being in the offense in a second year, as opposed to bringing everybody back like we did on the front end of year 1.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys. Questions for our student athletes? We'll start with Justin and then Michael.
Cool. Did I hear that your dad used to train MMA?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so growing up, he trained UFC fighters, so I kind of grew up in the fighting gym in Rome. He was a wrestler at the University of Illinois, and so kind of grew up wrestling around in the gym and just hanging out there. When I got to like 8 or 9 years old, I think he quit pursuing that just because it was obviously a lot. Those guys fly all over the country and all over the world now to go to those places and fight, so he kind of moved on from that to be more involved with me and my sports. But yeah, growing up, I was always wrestling around in the gym somewhere.
Who were some of the fighters that he trained?
Tim Sylvia, Robbie Lawler, Jens Pulver, Matt Hughes. I mean, some of the best champions. Militich Fighting Systems was the name of the gym. It's kind of older now, like a lot of the younger guys I talked to him about, but some of those guys are legends. And I grew up just watching every fight. It was definitely fun. So once he stopped doing that, he moved to just kind of my sports and focus on that, but still stays in touch with those guys to this day.
Was there any thought to pursue that in addition to football?
No, I got so tall that I just started playing basketball really and pursued basketball, and it was always, why is the Rusk kid playing basketball? And so kind of went the soft route, so yeah.
Michael.
Is there anything that you picked up on from watching that or participating in that you can use or have used in football?
Yeah, I think there's just my dad. I mean, being a tight end when I was a wide receiver in high school, so then when I made the jump to tight end, he just basically said physicality, and I think taking that and being a warrior and trying to just bring that fight to every battle. He didn't really care about blocking fundamentals or anything like that, just trying to whoop somebody. I mean, that's basically all he cared about, so yeah, I'd say I use that.
Brian.
Tyler, can you let us know just how your progress is going from the injury and maybe just a little bit about that first play and how much things changed for you and how quickly you reacted?
Yeah, so when it comes to injury, like, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and God has a plan for me. And, I don't know what that reason is. Maybe I was too complacent in my role, but I feel like ever since that moment, like, my main goal was just, how can I get back to the team as quick as possible? And fortunately for me, I haven't had any bumps in the road, no hiccups with my recovery, and everything's been going really smooth. And so I've really just been trying to, stack those little wins ever since I got out of surgery, just a little progress, the moving forward every day. And I feel like doing that has motivated me, and just the opportunities that I missed because of the injury kind of just gives me more of a drive that I think I'm gonna have when I'm back healthy and ready to play. So
Since you haven't been able to do like everything here in the spring, what has the spring ball been for you?
I feel like it's been a really good opportunity to just kind of focus on the mental side of the game. As an older guy in the group, I kind of feel like accountable to the younger guys and helping them out, and just if they have questions on the offense, just being a guy that they can confidently go to and be like, yeah, TP's gonna know what I have on this play. Like, I can ask him, what's going on. And so because I can't do anything physically on the field, I feel like it's helped me mentally just prepare myself. And, I still can do, indie footwork drills like catching jugs and stuff like that. So just where I can, trying to fit in the physical aspect of spring ball, but just staying mentally sharp, I think, is kind of my main goal in terms of like learning the offense and things like that. So.
Justin and Michael.
Tyler, what do you make of all the new faces in the tight end room and how those guys are settling in?
I think it's been great. I've been here for a long time, and I've seen a lot of faces coming in and out of that tight end room, and I think the tight end is a position there's always going to be great dudes playing tight end, and I think Cole and all the young guys have been awesome. It's been super easy for me to get along with them and really try and bring them up and kind of invite them into the culture that our coordinators and assistant coaches have set up for us. So it's been really good.
Cole, can you talk about the process of from the time that the portal opened to coming to Arizona? It felt like you got to Arizona on an official visit like right when the portal opened.
Yeah, no, I Just to have heard from friends of friends kind of at Illinois that this was a good place, and my quarterback Luke had a good relationship with Coach Daggy when he was at Ole Miss, and so just that was a guy I trusted, and so I kind of went off my gut feeling and just that opinion that this might be a good place for me, and also watching the film and seeing what they do and thinking that I could come help here, and so just kind of decided, I mean, it's not really a secret. I've done this a few times, and so just with the whole process, I wanted to just be able to commit somewhere fast, kind of, and just have my feet in the ground, learn offense quick, and just wanted to make the right decision. And so I felt like this was the right place to be. And when I went on my visit, I loved the staff and I loved my time here. And knowing that we were going to have this guy coming back and just feel like I can join a room and we can have the best room in the Big 12 that's all I wanted to do, and that was my plan. So yeah.
Michael?
Tyler, I know you said about sort of trying to rationalize the injury in your mind, but I imagine that it had to be pretty devastating for you in the moment. Can you just kind of recall what your emotions were when that happened?
I mean, yeah, like it's definitely tough. It was kind of tough for me to handle, for the first little bit after it happened. But fortunately, with the ability of getting a medical red shirt, in my mind, I'm just thinking like, okay, you know what? Maybe like I wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't going to be ready to go to the league in 2 years. Maybe I needed another year. And fortunately for me, like even though I didn't play that year, I still was welcomed and part of the program and still learning and still growing as a player. And while I didn't get what I want out of that season, like I still think that there's a lot I can do with the next 2 years that I have. So trying to just stay positive with it all.
Finish up with Justin.
This one's for both of you guys. So Coach Miller talked about the babies of the room, with the young guys. What do you make of those guys and how they're settling in?
I think they're all super talented, and I think one thing that stands out to me is they all have a different skill set, which is pretty cool. As a tight end, like there's so much that we get asked to do. And if we have a bunch of guys that have different skill sets and are good at different things, like it opens up the playbook, it opens up more opportunities for guys to be able to play. And, if more guys are ready, the more we can play in 12 personnel, which is ultimately what we want. So,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, like what he said, I think the more tight ends that you have that are ready to be on the field, the better. I mean, the more tight ends on the field, the more production we can have in the room, and the more that, injuries happen, things happen, the more guys that you have ready to go. That's just going to help us win more games.
Specifically with Henry, just a freshman, but what stands out to you when you look at his skill set?
I just think he has an incredible athletic ability. Like he's just super fluid in his motion, and he's just really natural. And the biggest thing with him is he's just really young, and he's just got a lot to learn and grow from. But comparing myself to him as a freshman, like he's way more natural than I was when I was a freshman, and I think he's going to be an outstanding player.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, fellas.
Appreciate you guys.